Business is FN hard.
Business is FN hard.
Business is FN hard.
Business is FN hard.
Business is FN hard. On today's episode, meet Brian Wagers, founder of Wagers Capital in Rogers, Arkansas.
Two people new to an industry partnering, that's actually a recipe for not a good partnership because you're both not really bringing anything of value except you're both like trying to figure it out.
And Jeremy Duckworth, owner, producer, director, and cinematographer of Bod High Productions in Rogers, Arkansas.
To me, it's all about serving the clients. As long as they're happy and they're going to want to keep coming back, they're enjoying the product, I'm always going to be in demand.
Get ready to get real, because business is FN hard. All right. Welcome back to Business is FN hard. I'm your host, Kinsey Houston, and I am so glad you're here for another episode where we get real about the challenges and the lessons of entrepreneurship. Today, we are diving into some heavy-hitting challenges with two outstanding guests who've seen it all, and they've got plenty of insights to share. So please welcome Brian Wagers, CEO of Wagers Capital and CIO of Elevate Commercial Investment Group, and Jeremy Duckworth, the owner, producer, director, and cinematographer of Bod High Productions. What I'd like to do first is get to know our guests. So, Brian, can you kick things off by telling us a bit about yourself and what inspired you to start Wagers Capital?
Yeah. About me, I was born and raised in Cincinnati, went to the University of Kentucky for school. Fresh out of school, I went into sales, pursued a sales career and did really well in sales and started getting extra income outside of maxing out my Roth IRA 401k account. So I wanted to do something besides just put in those investment vehicles. So I started doing a lot of research on stocks and real estate. And one thing led me down the path of real estate and started buying apartment complexes about 7.5 years ago. Started Wagers Capital. I would put my own money in, pool investors' capital together, and I would operate apartments and, run them 2 to 5 year business plans, improving them and selling them and sharing the profits with my partners, investors, and did about 500 doors just myself, then kind of ran out of doors to do by myself and scaled that up with Elevate where, now we're buying hundreds of doors at a time across the country. I started in Northwest Arkansas. That's where I'm at currently. Did about 25 deals here in the past 6 years, and then did that on a much larger scale with Elevate and doing that now. So, I started it out of a need probably, I just started my own business as a need for myself, for my own income to be placed and invested, and then started, branching out from there and bringing on other investors with me.
That's awesome. Thank you, Brian. Man, I want to hear about your journey and how you've navigated the challenges of commercial real estate, particularly commercial real estate is inspiring. I know that's a tough industry to be in, and so your perspective in that is incredibly insightful.
Yeah, look forward to talking about it.
Absolutely. And Jeremy, now I'll turn it over to you. Can you share a little bit about your background and your path into the entertainment industry?
Sure. It's not really a straight path, but I started back in '93 as a race car driver. I grew up in Missouri, in this region. My dad was a race car driver. It's all I knew. It's all I cared about, wanted to do was just drive race cars. And I had my target on NASCAR at the time. It was the biggest auto racing in the country, in the 90s, early 2000s. And there's just so much capital and it was just so big at the time. I just was so focused on it. But I just started driving race cars. I believe in '99, somewhere around then, I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina after I worked on a couple dirt track teams, building cars. And I worked on a couple NASCAR teams out there as well. it was just kind of by chance that my career path just kind of changed. In 2002, I ended up doing a commercial for Budweiser. It was a national commercial before the Daytona 500. And that was the first time I've ever seen any kind of like production. And they just asked me if I wanted to be in it. And I said, sure. But it was the first exposure for me to that. But the NASCAR and the media kind of helped me get into the entertainment. I did the IMAX NASCAR movie. I did a couple of other things. And then in '06, I was so burnt out in NASCAR, I walked out and I wasn't sure what to do. I had another business that my wife and I ran at the time. So I just kind of transferred to that. But it was really her business that she started. It was a commercial cleaning business, painting. But it wasn't really my passion. But all of a sudden I saw maybe a need for my race car driving skills, some of my past martial arts skills and acting. So I started studying acting and just started studying as much as I could and just trying to hope maybe I could get some acting work or something with my skills. But it ended up just becoming, I never got hired to do any kind of NASCAR stuff in acting after I was out. So all my stuff, I was like a police officer. I started kind of getting roles and auditioning, and it just kind of kept going. I kept training, and I was introduced to other teachers. And I just kind of came into the industry like that in about 2006 to 2012 when I was on the East Coast of Charlotte. I was a lot of time at Scream Gym Studios in Wilmington. So I did 4 seasons of One Tree Hill, Eastbound and Down. I had the opportunity to be on a lot of good sets with a lot of, great directors and actors. And I just learned from them, just being on there 12 hours a day. I just soaked and, I just loved it. So I kind of did that. Some of my friends talked me into doing some stand-up comedy. When I was in Myrtle Beach, I did House of Blues, murder mystery there. I was in an improv troupe in Myrtle Beach as well. So the comedy is really my forte and what I love to do as far as entertainment goes. And in 2012, I decided to move to Northwest Arkansas, which there was no production here at the time. So when I moved here, I had just put so much work in what I was doing, and I just saw the need for it, and it just kind of fell in. Like I just started producing stuff here, and I've done multiple feature films, over 350 television episodes. I don't have a clue how many TV commercials. Right now, we got a TV show going. Tyson's one of our main supporters. Highland Dairy. We just shot an international show in Italy in October that we're still trying to do post-production on and still trying to bring the funding and everything. But my biggest thing right now is I just see so much opportunity in content creation right here. There was nothing here, but I think after all this kind of boils through, I like what I see.
Absolutely. Well, Jeremy, thank you so much for joining us. It's really cool to hear about all the different industries that you were in, all the experiences that you have in your background to lead it to where you are today with the entertainment industry. That industry in particular, as we talked about earlier, it's such a dynamic and challenging space.
Yes.
So I'm excited to dive deeper into your experiences and hear about how your past experiences may have impacted where you are now.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of them.
And so now that we know both of our guests a bit better, what I'd like to do is just get right down to it. It's time to talk about what's kicking our butts, what we like to say. So, Brian, you mentioned earlier when we were talking, some of the challenges that you were dealing with are hiring and firing and defining roles, kind of relating a little bit to Jeremy there, and navigating just market swings in general when it comes to commercial real estate. So can you elaborate a little bit on how you're tackling these issues and the lessons that you've learned along the way?
Yeah, for sure. And appreciate that. Jerry, I didn't know you were local to Northwest Arkansas, so that's cool to see. A lot of, like you mentioned, a lot of opportunity in the film industry here. The Bentonville Film Festival, it's pretty cool to see.
It's changed a lot in the last 10 years for sure. It's exciting. It's fun.
So yeah, for me personally, the podcast being business is effing hard. I think as a solopreneur, whether you're starting out, you're joining another entrepreneur and becoming a partner, or, starting your own venture. For me, it was more of a solopreneur. And a lot of times in those early ventures, it's not necessarily that you're hiring and firing internally. Maybe you are. Like, that's always come natural to me, like having good sales guys. For me, that's been just profit sharing, like figuring out a good profit sharing system where they're getting more of the upside. So like internal hiring and firing has been like, as someone coming from sales, I understood the alignment of interest of being, I personally, when I was in sales, working harder to get that commission, but at the same time, the company is getting the other part of that commission. So, for me, it's been, having strategic partners where, it might be Wagers Capital and Duckworth Capital coming together on a venture where he's not working for me, I'm not working for him, but we're partnering on a deal, so that's how kind of like apartment buying is pretty similar to business buying in that sense, where you're forming a new venture. When you're taking on a new acquisition, you're forming a new venture. And that's kind of how actually I met Calvin, through the EOS system. I was buying a separate business and trying to implement that EOS there to get the internal stuff set up. But I think for me, commercial real estate, my, primary sector being cyclical, currently in a down market, some of the partners that we're doing fine when everything is good and gravy, a lot of times I'm having to kind of step in, doing a little bit of extra work. And I think that seems like that's kind of common in a lot of the industry. Like, everyone is working harder to get, the same amount of results, like pre-COVID and pre-COVID. Like, I'm working like actually harder at getting like just about the same, but at least that is what it feels in commercial real estate. So I think challenges there, just partner expectations, not being able to rely on, certain ventures that you've had and partners. So, the solution to that has just been, working harder. And then for any kind of new ventures, it's been more of a learning lesson of making sure those, I mentioned it on the early call, making sure those roles and responsibilities are really spelled out. And yes, you want everything to be good and gravy and, everybody's humming along, but what happens if you're not meeting expectations, or, what are some of those events that happen? So I think setting that precedent early would be more helpful on, so that's where I'm at currently with some challenges.
Yeah, it's such a valuable perspective, Brian, with the commercial real estate industry in general, looking at like market volatility, the rising costs. And to put it in EOS terms, it's clear that having the right people in the right seats, having those clear roles laid out for the people that you're partnering with and the people on your team, it's crucial for that success.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and EOS, interesting, about like the internal models, but you can apply, I guess you could, like you're saying, apply that to, external partnerships as well, how you're handling those.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Jeremy, on your side of things, we talked earlier, and you're navigating a niche industry with its own set of challenges, like finding skilled talent and scaling your business while avoiding burnout, while avoiding, taking it all on yourself. So can you talk us through how you're approaching this growth phase for your business?
I've actually just changed the business model in the last year. For the past 10 years, I have struggled with the exact same thing, and it's just finding a consistent capital, income stream. When you're gig based and you're always going from job to job to job, it's hard to forecast the future. And I've tried to come up with ways to forecast it and markers to find it, but it's been challenging. I have not come up with anything conclusive. And so I've changed our entire model. And that's one of the other things, but we are now going into what's, streams of income on a monthly basis for our productions. And I think it's just one of the biggest door opening ideas and things that we've actually implemented in the last 12 years. And I just think it's going to give us extreme, future growth possibilities But the problem is once this is open, is finding all the parts for these. The biggest thing that in Northwest Arkansas that I've learned is just my efficiency. I've been able to come up with an efficiency model of production and shooting shows and content that I just feel like nobody else in the country can compete with. Maybe there's a few, but I have seen none. And I'm pretty proud of that, but it's also comes from the struggles that we've had starting here and what we've had to kind of come through. But to like take advantage of this, as far as me, I'm a director. I know how to put a show together, but I'm also a businessman and investor. And I know how important and how you have to really be strategic. And when you bring the capital in, who you're bringing it in, and who, how it's going to be spent. This is just a lot for one person for me. And I just I've struggled coming up with more partners that kind of understand the investment and business side of it. And it's also, I could pull myself out of it if I could find enough people to do the production side of it, which I've also struggled. So that's really what's kicking my butt right now. I'm just trying to find out how to push forward through this because I've been here so many times with this business. And I just feel I'm so close to kind of pushing through something new, but that push it's a lot. So I'm not going to lie, struggling with it, but it's coming along. It's getting there. So
Absolutely. Yeah, it's so relatable, Jeremy. Growing pains of a business are real, and finding the right team to get over those hurdles that you're facing. It can feel at times like searching for that needle in a haystack, but it sounds like you're in the right place with knowing where you need to be and looking similar to what we talked about with Brian and in EOS terms, looking for the right people in the right seats. And actually, another layer of the EOS principle there is looking at what seats do you need to fill in order to have a successful team, in order to achieve your goals for 2025 and beyond. And once you know exactly what those seats look like, once they're created, then going ahead and finding the right people to fill those roles respectively. So ultimately, it sounds like an exciting but challenging time for you, Jeremy, and I wish you the best of luck with your growth this year.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's big. What seats do you need to fill to have growth in 2025? I think that's
sales. Anything out of this area to grow regionally. We've got everything in place. So a sales force or a team that's reliable outside of Northwest Arkansas, but still regional. That, and I need distribution on my content, just distribution channels opened up and those connections, which I'm working on right now. And then the rest, I would say, is probably just capital to come in to fund the front end of some of these productions. Because once I get the distribution and I get those contracts for the money, if I can fund it on the front end and get things going, a lot of times I can shoot them cheaper. I can fund them myself. And it's another thing for the person buying the content that they don't, it's just another leverage for me that I'm selling to them that I don't, there's things, like I said, we're so efficient. I don't need as much money from them. I feel like I can raise the capital and be profitable, but I still need to have those connections of where, and capital for real estate's one thing, capital for these TV shows, it's not my forte either. I'm really struggling to find out where to go for this. Because in this area, I don't know of any investors that invest in content. So this is one of my biggest struggles, just finding these type of people. And these are also very specialized. It's not something I could kind of teach somebody to do this stuff. I need a really good partner that understands kind of what I'm thinking as well and can see the exact same thing. And then if we could just kind of get the sales team and those things in place, like I said, the rest of it, I feel like it should move on pretty quickly after that.
Yeah. for sure. That's real estate, right? It's like the two big legs are someone who's finding the deal and someone who's bringing the equity, and then obviously in between that, you have the operator who's running it and putting everything together. But to continue to grow in real estate, you have to find good deals and you have to have more capital to continue to fund those deals and the CapEx. I don't know about definitely a lot of interest in real estate in Northwest Arkansas, obviously big growth here, but I think there's a lot of venture capital that's continuing to look at the area that I could see, hard to get a real estate investor to come, to something speculative. You can have the numbers though, but MidCon, have you ever heard of the MidCon VC? That's an interesting event for venture capital here in Northwest Arkansas.
I have not.
Yeah. I'll shoot it to you after the episode, but just came to mind.
Great. Yeah. Thank you. That could be a great connection. And the thing with me is I feel like I have the opportunity for people to make money. I could see the profits, but it's just still a lot of work in there. And I'm just so busy. I'm behind on my day-to-day stuff, just editing shows that I got to film that I'm doing right now. And I got another one I'm shooting. So I'm just so overwhelmed. If I could even find somebody to take that from me, then I could free up my mind to even meet with some people and do some other. But like right now, it's just my hands are so full, and I think I'm just in such a habit of going through these same things on a daily basis that it's really kind of my fault, and I need to really kind of push through some new habits, some new meetings, and just change up so I can kind of, get a little new. But some venture capitalists is something right now. I've never had to raise any money for anything, which we're in a pretty good spot. But I think that points now. I don't want to ever raise money if the people are going to make money. That's just my rule. Yeah. Otherwise, a waste of time.
100%. That's the mindset to have for sure too. When taking capital, not just to do a deal, but make sure one's winning.
Exactly. So we can do more deals. That's the whole thing. More deals.
I didn't have, I wasn't raising at first it was just my own equity. And then it was bringing, trying to have who I was buying from, leave it in the deal, like seller financing sort of deal. Similar actually what I just did with a business, purchased a commercial painting company and did a seller finance structure that was, kind of eliminated the need for me to raise equity or put in my own equity. It's I had the lender and then the seller staying in there. So I feel like there's creative ways to structure deals, structure partnerships, just to making sure everyone's on win-win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to piggyback off Brian and what you had said earlier, Jeremy. You had mentioned, wanting and needing to develop some new habits rather than completely just being bogged down in the business and knowing that you have to get all of this done, but not necessarily seeing a way that you can prioritize and other opportunities at the moment, and being able to try to find a balance in how much time you're spending in the business versus how much time you're spending on the business. Finding some time to build in your schedule where you are strictly taking time to map out, this is what my ideal team would look like from a role perspective, partnerships, and make your plan, your roadmap to success. Once you have that, then it's going to be, and of course it's easier said than done, but spending the time to do that and look at the resources. I'm happy to shoot you over a couple of different resources as well. And in order to just see your vision and help others see your vision as well, so you can find that common ground and get people who are as bought in as you are.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I would like to do next, gentlemen, is I would love for each of you to share some actionable advice for entrepreneurs who may be in some similar positions. So, Brian, how do you approach, in general, just building partnerships that truly last? And also, how do you manage market uncertainties?
Yeah. So for first part of that question, as far as partnerships, making sure you bring value to each other. I think a lot of people are excited, like in the beginning of a partnership, you might have two people new to an industry partnering because they're both new and they're going through the same stuff. But that's actually a recipe for not a good partnership because you're both not really bringing anything of value except you're both like trying to figure it out. So, I would get specific on figure out what you're good at, to what Jeremy was saying, what you're passionate about. Sometimes that can coincide, sometimes you get passionate about something because you're so good at something or vice versa. So figuring out what you're really good at and then finding a complement to that, trying to stay focused on that, and build off that, whether it's hiring internally or partnering externally, which I have experience with both, laying out roles and responsibilities early, making sure you're, tracking how you're doing, making sure how you're tracking what you said you were going to do. Are you still doing that, 12 months down the road, or how does that look like to your original projections? And then, market uncertainty, that's just kind of goes hand in hand with that. And that's tracking what the current market is doing, whether you're good with numbers, finding someone who is good with numbers, is super important, especially if you're taking outside capital, being able to forecast out what the market looks like, stress testing deals, that can be businesses or deals. What happens if we're bringing in this much in sales or this much? What if sales drop? What if costs go up? If we're in real estate, it's what happens if rent doesn't go up this much, or what happens if insurance and taxes going up? So get really good at forecasting and keeping up with those tracking for market shifts.
Absolutely. Great advice, Brian. Thank you. And Jeremy, my question for you, what would you say to the entrepreneurs out there in other niche industries similar to yours who might be struggling to find their skilled talent or to scale their business? What would you recommend for them?
Well, I would recommend any entrepreneur, it's like Brian said, like always find the trends in the market. Like they always say, trends your friend. But a lot of times you'll find these little things where you can serve a client better just because of the trends and what's kind of coming up and what's, forecasting. And your niche market, and like ours, if it's real estate and the market's going down, I have realtors now that we have TV shows, but we find ways to market them. And it kind of goes across like any business, and especially if it's a niche market, just know it 100%. And that way, when it's fluctuating, you'll always kind of know which way to move, which way to serve your clients. And to me, it's all about serving the clients. As long as the clients or my audience, if it's a TV show or something, it's the audience, but as long as they're happy and they're going to want to keep coming back and they're enjoying the product, I feel like I'm always going to be in demand as long as they're satisfied. So that's my main thing with the niche market is just really, really know your market. You can't just be 50% and just kind of going along with what everyone's doing and just kind of, you really, really need to be customer focused, in my opinion.
That's great insight, Jeremy. And really, you've both shared such valuable insights today. And I think it's clear that the challenges that you both faced have taught you lessons that resonate with a lot of entrepreneurs out there. So thank you both. And as we wrap up here, I'd love to hear what's next for each of you. So Brian, can you tell us what is on the horizon for Wagers Capital and how can our audience connect with you?
Yeah, continuing to invest back in Northwest Arkansas, finding good real estate deals that can add value. Getting ready to launch a big 290 unit project in Bentonville, actually, where I'll be bringing on investors for that project. So if you're interested in investing passively in real estate while you climb the corporate ladder, grow your business, and still have that money work for you, definitely interested in talking to me. can shoot me an email, brian@elevatecig.com.
Awesome. And Jeremy, what exciting projects are you working on? And where can our listeners reach out to learn more about what you're doing?
Well, right now we have one of our main shows going on. It's called About the Dish. Chef Steven Brooks, he's our host. It's local right now. It's on KNWA. You can find it on NBC. We're looking to bring on that show into Springfield, Little Rock, and Tulsa, and into Texas. And our sponsors are also on board. So this is kind of what, with that show, what we're looking. We also just shot another show. It's called Culinary Crossroads. What's their name for the moment? But it's basically two chefs sharing their hometown, where they grew up, how they got their culinary experiences. So we went to Italy, and then the second part of it, we're going to go to Alabama with our Italian chef, and Steven's going to show him kind of how he grew up in the culture of his food. So that's the Culinary Crossroads. We're looking for distribution on it. We have, like I said, we've already shot the part in Italy. So we self-funded that part. So we got some stuff there. And then I also have the film project that I'm working on with another writer, film producer of mine that I've actually produced a documentary with 5 or 6 years ago, and some other films. But I'm really working with her, trying to look at this lifetime, like the female audience niche of content. And I just feel like with her writing and our production, there's just a lot of content I think in the future we'll be producing on something that's completely separate from our culinary shows that we've been doing. And we still have a lot of TV commercials and just kind of our local stuff that we're doing as well. So it's really just expanding what we're doing and moving into eventually, a national market. That's the long-term goal.
That is awesome. It sounds like you've got a lot of exciting opportunities in the work, and I wish you the best of luck with that growth, Jeremy.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And Brian, Jeremy, thank you guys both for joining me today and sharing your journeys, your challenges, and your advice with us today.
Yeah. Thank you for having us on.
Well, it's been great. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Your conversation.
And to our listeners out there, thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Business is Effing Hard. If you found today's conversation helpful, be sure to share it with somebody who might need to hear it. And don't forget to follow us for more Real Talk episodes. And as always, remember, every twist and turn in your journey, it always brings a lesson that's worth learning. So until next time, stay bold, stay inspired, and keep making it happen. See you guys later.